Hello, I'm Michael Trubine with MPT Industries. We're a specialty lubricant manufacturer located in Dover, New Jersey. I'd like to talk a little bit today about synthetic motor oil. What exactly is a synthetic motor oil? Well, when you go to an auto parts store and you pick up a quart of full synthetic motor oil, it may actually be synthetic. Well, you have to ask yourself, how can that be? Well, it all started back in 1999 with a case involving Mobil and Castrol. Castrol Syntec at the time was marketed as a full synthetic motor oil, even though it contained highly refined petroleum base stocks. Mobil had an issue with that, so they went to the Better Business Bureau's National Advertising Review Council. They looked at the case and they basically decided that as long as Castrol Syntec contained highly refined petroleum with qualities that equaled or surpassed that of a full synthetic, they would be able to market it and sell it and label it any way they choose. As a result, Mobil decided, hey, if they can do it, so can we. So they changed their polyalpha olefin-based motor oil at the time to a highly refined petroleum. Since then, other companies have basically fallen in line and done the same thing. They're marketing Group 3, what are known in the industry as Group 3 base stocks, highly refined petroleum, and they're labeling them as synthetic. There are 5 classifications for motor oil. Groups 1 and 2 really are petroleum-based motor oils marketed as petroleum, and they're refined at a relatively low standard. Then there's Group 3, highly refined petroleum, that is marketed as synthetic. And then we move on to Group 4 base stocks. Group 4 base stocks consists of polyalpha olefins. Polyalpha olefins, PAOs, were first developed during World War II to get the fighter planes from the United States over to Europe without frying the motors. Polyalpha olefins are made with molecules that are exactly uniform in shape and size from one to the next. They have excellent thermal and oxidative stability, a very high viscosity index, which means they won't thin very easily, and maybe best of all, they're relatively moderate in price when compared with other synthetics. It's the entry level to the synthetic base oil market. Then we move on to Group 5 base stocks. Group 5 base stocks consist of polyalkylene glycols. Polyalkylene glycols have excellent thermal and oxidative stability. They have very good film strength. Also in this category we have the polyol esters. Polyol esters have excellent thermal stability, very high viscosity index, very resistant to fire, used in jet plane motors quite often to help reduce the engine temperatures. And additionally we have in this category diesters. Diesters have a very good ability to mix with other base stocks, very good solubility, and they're often mixed with polyalpha olefins because of that. They also have very good oxidative and thermal stability. So when you look at all these different base stocks, how do you decide which base stocks you should be looking for in a motor oil? How do you decide what's a synthetic, what's not a synthetic? I mean, what's the bottom line here for the consumer? Basically, what the consumer needs to do, if you're a person that's looking for a good quality motor oil to put in his or her car, you want to look at, first, obviously, price is a consideration. If you're going to an auto parts store and there's something on sale and it's $5 a quart, for example, maybe that's the motor oil for you. Maybe even though it's a petroleum-based, quote, synthetic, it's adequate for your style of driving. If you're putting 3, 4, 5,000 miles on your car in between oil changes, that motor oil that's labeled as a full synthetic, even though it's got highly refined petroleum, it may be good enough for your driving style. However, if you're going to be putting 10, 15,000 miles on your car before the next oil change, or if you've got a turbocharger, you're doing maybe high performance driving or a lot of highway driving or a lot of stop and go driving, these things are all can be stressful on a car motor. These are things you have to look at. So, I mean, how do you determine what the quality level is in a motor oil? The American Society for Testing Materials basically has tests that they use to measure the performance of different types of motor oils. So in my opinion, the most important test that you can look at when evaluating a motor oil would be the evaporation loss, because that'll show you how quickly the motor oil vaporizes, boils off. That's basically an indicator that if it's a high number, that's an indicator that the motor oil is breaking down pretty quickly and basically evaporating. So you want to look for a ASTM evaporation loss, also known as the NOAC volatility test, with numbers that are relatively low. That gives you an idea of how stable that motor oil is going to be under high temperature conditions. Another test would be the high temperature, high shear test. That basically is going to show you how quickly the motor oil breaks down. If the number there is very low, you know that motor oil isn't performing very well. It's breaking down relatively easily. You want a number that's going to hold up, a high number that's going to show that that motor oil is really holding up well under stressful conditions. As far as the base stocks, going back to that, no motor oil company is going to tell you what their base stocks are. And the thing is, too, we only talked about base stocks. We didn't get into additive packages. The additive packages are basically the vitamins, the antioxidants that go into those base oils that help make them stable and to keep them good over a long period of time. There are all different types of factors there, and we can talk about that for quite a while. We won't get into that today. But there are friction-reducing additives and anti-foam additives and antioxidants in there that keep the motor oil from degrading. Also viscosity index improvers. Viscosity index improvers basically give that motor oil better ability to cold flow and to work during really high temperatures, but they're polymers which break down, and they are not as good as a higher quality base stock that is able to minimize the amount of viscosity index improver or eliminate it altogether. So there are a lot of different variables, but my recommendation would be to look at those tests. These ASTM tests tell a lot, and if a manufacturer is not forthcoming with a lot of that information, that's usually an indicator that they're hiding something. Thank you for your time.